known as an innovation economy because Duane Roth, the CEO of Connect, says it so. Not just that. But because there actually is a lot of information that Connect brings to us and to the business community to help us think about how we can continue to innovate from university partnerships, research institutions, and education as well. Duane, you're a champion to talk about the San Diego innovation economy. Thank you for joining us.
So thank you, and it's great to be here. I walked into the room and I immediately started seeing faces that are very recognizable. Stan Malloy, I've worked with years at San Diego State, Barbara Edwards and Math for America. So many people that care so much about this subject. But before I get started, a little advice to Cindy. Never follow students. And I don't know why I agreed to do this. There weren't any students on the agenda when I looked at it, but here I am. So, and I particularly want to thank the previous speakers, and Debbie sort of laid it all out so I don't have to tell you why this matters. You know, education in the STEM field is training people to pursue knowledge. And knowledge is wonderful, but if you can't turn it into products and services that help mankind, it doesn't really matter at the end. I would encourage all of you to read a book by it's James Collins, and the title is The Coming Jobs War. And he describes in there many, many interesting facts from their polling, the Gallup polling that takes place. And the one that struck me is the number one thing attributed to happiness. I would, at least, family, a good lifestyle, was a rewarding job. Rewarding job. And that's true throughout the entire world in all their polling. And so when you think about what I'm going to talk to you about why this matters and pursuit of knowledge and pursuit of trying to turn that knowledge into products and services that make our lives better, makes our economy grow better, our quality of life goes up because of it. So I'm going to begin by just talking about San Diego and why what you're doing today is so important to the young people so they'll have this opportunity instead of waking up one day and saying, why didn't somebody tell me? So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about Connect and how it came about. A little over 25 years ago, there was concern about the economy here. The savings and loan industry had blown up, and the Cold War began to thaw, and there were massive layoffs, 10% unemployment, housing prices were making offer. That's hard to remember that far back. Many of you weren't here, but some do. And a group of people led by the chancellor at the University of California, San Diego, Dick Atkinson, met 8 people and said, you know, we're publishing great papers and we have great science on the Torrey Pines Mesa, but we aren't commercializing any of it. And if we don't start thinking about that, we're going to wake up one day and realize that the rest of the world has passed us by. So can we start a culture here that will understand entrepreneurship, technology transfer, venture capital, innovation, ideas, and transferring that into something that will help our economy. So if you fast forward today, Connect has helped about 3,000 companies get started here. That's an incredible number, 3,000 companies that did not exist. Currently, we create one new company every day in San Diego. Technology-based company is started every single day of the year. So that's, and that happened because the culture allowed it to happen. Before Connect and before starting to talk about this, we, as I said, just published papers and nobody would have invested a penny in any of these ideas. So if you fast forward to what happened and why, and take a look back, started with great research. We had talented people here, and we imported some that brought part of this culture with it, and I'll show you at the end how important the people who came here. By the way, how many are native San Diegans or native? not very, how many are not, is a better way of saying it. So the majority of the people came here from somewhere else and sort of adopted this place as their home, and I'll talk about that. So, and then the final thing is you have to have money, investment capital to go into this. Many places have great research, and they have talented people, and they have money, and they still don't do what happens here. And the reason is this culture of collaboration. You're going to hear that word over. You're trying to do it today. Very typical of the way San Diego is described, a very collaborative place. And this man who started, he was the first CEO of Connect, Bill Otterson, who had cancer. He was given 6 months to live, sold his startup company when nobody even understood software. He had a software company. Todd would understand that. He sold it and went home to get his affairs in order to die. And he didn't because of a drug called interferon. He took the drug and he got better, and his wife Ann said, Bill, you got to get out of the house. I can't take it, and we're going to end it. So he took this job, always, though, with this diagnosis of cancer sitting on his shoulder. So he's impatient. He wanted to make a difference before he died. He lived till 1999. But he created this culture of collaboration. So I came here with my biotech company in 1989. Bill's one of the first people I met. He said, what do you do? I told him, you know, it's in the biotech space. And I told him, and he said, well, there's 2 other people in town doing the same thing. And I want you to have lunch with them, and I want you to tell them everything you know. I said, Bill, I grew up at Johnson & Johnson, and we don't tell Abbott everything we know. And he said, yeah, but you do here. So I had the lunch, and we met, and we did share what we knew. And we became friends, and we helped each other all the way to commercialization. And that's what happened here, and it just broke down those barriers that you previously would have never thought of. So keep collaboration in the back of your mind. It's a potent San Diego weapon that we need to use as we compete with the rest of the world in commercial. So just very quickly, what do? We mentor anyone that has an idea about commercializing an invention. So scientists, engineers come to our place on a daily basis and are given real help, real mentoring by volunteers who we organize, who have been there, done that. So they get real help over the period of months. And that's the exciting part about what I do. You wouldn't believe what I see in a given day in terms of these ideas. And I go, where did they come from? I mean, how did you think about this? And that's what is so exciting about the research. But often it's not about the invention. It's about the business under the invention. How do you turn that into a business that people will invest in and we can grow and as I said, create products that change people's lives? And that's what we spend time doing. We obviously are working in the venture capital area, education and curriculum. We do a number of STEM programs. Nia Gibson, sitting over here, runs those for us, called Young Innovators. And by the way, I wanted to say this. High Tech High was actually founded in our boardroom at my company, Alliance Pharmaceutical, when Gary Jacobs and the people from EDC started to meet and said, we have to do something to really give exposure to technology in San Diego. And to see where they have gone and those kids is just amazing to me. So it makes me very proud, but it makes me feel old too, because recognition and competition, we do a lot in policy, and that includes STEM policy. We're working really hard right now on the federal level on visa policy and how that's so important to our innovation here in San Diego. We bring some of the best and brightest people from all over the world to our universities and educate them and then send them home. We need them to stay here because we need not only the skill sets they have and acquired, but we need the understanding of where they came from, their cultures, and how that relates to our products. You can't make a 2-week swing through a country and think you understand what they need. You need somebody who grew up in it. So that's why I think it's so important that we keep those people, and we're working on that policy right now. And then I'll close with just where are we going next, and that's in the convert. What I want to do now is just give you a feel for what's here. And it all began a little over 100 years ago with the Scripps Institute of Oceanography being founded. And then just 50 some years ago, the University of California, San Diego, and the Salk Institute. From there, we've grown now to 82 research institutes on the 82, and they keep coming. People want to come here and be part of that 3-mile radius where they can interact easily. San Diego State, 20 minutes drive. Spayward down on the Point Loma, 20 minutes drive. So people can really collaborate across institutions like nowhere in the world. More density of scientists, engineers, physicians than any place on earth. That's the beginning, that's the core. I mentioned defense and security. We've always had a huge play here, an important part of national defense. And that was started a number of years ago. And from that, many of the things you see following came. And I'll try to make that important. We still have the #1 military payroll in the world. And the defense contractors keep coming here. We just got a great announcement that Northrop Grumman is moving people from Florida and New York here because of autonomous robotic systems. It's going to be the capital of the world. Things that fly or drive or go underwater without any instruction or people with joysticks doing that. Completely autonomous. So things that came out of this area should never, ever be forgotten because they were hugely important in what happened. This is an unbelievable story. The IT wireless software area. Todd and his colleagues were one of the first to start analytical software here. But if you look at this, 3,000 companies started from pretty much a standing start. Linkabit, Irwin Jacobs, then this company that was started when Qualcomm, nobody can even remember who it was at the time. What's that company Irwin started? Now it's a household word. But from that and all the ramifications, it just keeps growing and growing. Life sciences. We always had strong, strong science in the biomedical area, the biology field. And you see what's happened here in terms of things like monoclonal antibodies and recombinant DNA and now stem cells. And all the technology that we've been able to take from these discoveries and turn into products that are useful and are saving patients' lives. Energy and environment. This clean tech area sounds new, and there was a lot of publicity, but we've been doing it for an awful long time here, and it will continue. A better term is sustainability. That encompasses so many things. This is a cultural change that's happened, and it will continue regardless of what your views on global warming or climate change are. This is sustainable is something that California eats and drinks, and it will for a long time, and the rest of the world, including China and India, are waking up to this as being a very important part. Clean water, clean air. This is one you may not think about. Sport innovators. So the golf club companies got started here up in North County, TaylorMade and companies that, Callaway. That technology came from the aerospace industry. The carbons that were being used for airplanes and jets, somebody had the idea that worked there that why don't we, during this downsizing, why don't we try that on golf clubs? Completely changed the world of golf, completely. Surfboard, San Diego State. Gordon and Smith, two students, were shaping surfboards in their garage and turned it into a company that still exists today. So, and then you go on skateboards, all the things. There's 600 companies now in San Diego and another 800 or 900 in Orange County. We are the epicenter of the world for these kind of things. Amazing products, and I think material science, all the things that go into there. And then a few years back, interesting things started to happen. I remember we were a study by the U.S. Competitiveness Council. San Diego was picked as one of them. And Michael Porter from Harvard, who had done the work on clusters, was the head of it. And I remember being interviewed at the end of that process, and he said, so what's next? I mean, what's going to happen next in San Diego? And I remember saying, well, there's this interesting dialogue between the wireless companies and the healthcare companies taking place. And the wireless people are saying, wow, we think we could do sensors and monitors that might help your patients because we could track them on a more regular basis instead of just showing up for a checkup to see how it's going in a clinical trial or something like that. And we think that would be of great value, but we don't understand the food and drug regulations. We're consumer products companies. We don't understand reimbursement, getting paid by insurance companies versus getting paid by a consumer. And we sat over there, I was on the life science side, saying, well, we understand that stuff. That's it. You know, it's not easy, but we understand it. But we had no idea what your technology could actually do. This whole space of what's called wireless health or mobile health is just exploding. And it's like my colleague at the university, Larry Smarr, said at Cal IT2, you don't wait today until there's smoke coming out of your exhaust pipe to know your car has an engine problem. You have a warning light that comes on. Your tire pressure is monitored. There's 150 sensors monitoring everything that goes on with your automobile. We too will be monitored like that. One very good example of what's coming. Some of you may have read this, but a discovery made by Eric Topol and his colleagues about what happens when you have these sudden heart attacks, generally in younger people with no warning. And what happens is there's an event where a plaque that's built up that has a liquefied center breaks and finally releases and causes massive clotting to take place in a patient's body. They discovered that 2 to 3 weeks before that event, there are certain cells on that plaque that start to slough off. So they're working on a nanosensor that would be implanted and look for those cells, just those cells. And as Paul Jacobs said at the Qualcomm annual meeting, so you're going to get a call from your arm that says 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks. But that science fiction is real, and that's what's going to happen. So we can really monitor people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, bring healthcare costs way down, all the things that matter there. And that's happening in San Diego. Why? Collaboration and close proximity and that culture of sharing ideas, and that's made it. I can go on and on about these, but genomics is going to play a huge part. Some of you read, we won't be calling it breast cancer, prostate. We'll be calling it the mutation. Treat the mutation, which can be the same in breast cancer or colon cancer. It's not that they just happen to reside in those organs, but the treatment can be exactly the same because it's the same mutation that's taking place. So matching drugs with your genomic will be commonplace for sure. Biofuels, you know, algae and things like that can be used. Young oil, as it's called, it's green oil, but it's far more energy friendly or environmental friendly than. And then I talked a little bit about this space, these autonomous robotics. 15, 20 years from now, we won't be driving cars. Cars will be driving us. It'll be safer. It'll be more fuel efficient. It'll be much more, we'll be able to use the roads far better because nobody's going to be screaming and honking their horn and moving out of the way. Your car will take you where you need to go. So those autonomous systems and that technology, which started really with the unmanned, the manned vehicles like the Predator and the Global Hawk, and is now moving into other commercial applications, I think is going to be. So I want to close with a little commercial that I made. I've been asked constantly, you know, what is the culture of San Diego? I can best answer that by saying it's not Los Angeles. It's not Glitz. No offense. And it's not the Bay Area, it's not New York, it's different. And there's a fabric and a substance that I just could not describe. And I kept thinking about this, and 2 years ago, I sort of landed on an idea about how we should position ourselves to the rest of the world. And the title of it is, and that's why I asked where you came from, they came here. And when you see this, think about the needs that we're going to have because of these talented people who came here, stayed here, and all the others that are going to come as we begin to grow our own people with ideas that are here, but more importantly, the young people who are going to fill in and implement these ideas, make them happen. We can't make these happen if we don't have the workforce that really understands science, technology, engineering.